All right, traders, another trading week in the book. Looking at the SPY here, you can see it gapped down on Friday, but ended up closing kind of strong. Still overall, it feels kind of weak, but man, the low floaters, the low price stocks, still really paying off well. I'm going to slide one over just a highlight from Friday for those of you that weren't in chat. And this was T Rove. And the only reason I'm showing this, I think there's a pretty good lesson here, right? I had this monster gap up. There's nothing I'm going to do with that. I was hoping my dog would start barking while I was making this video. Um, and then all of a sudden, you see the volume coming in down here. I cannot, whenever you have this scenario, huge gap up, and the way I view this is bears are winning, shorts are winning, right? They're just winning. They've just slapped the gap, they slapped that gap up and knocked it down. And even a little bump here for me is a very low probability entry because usually any little break off the lows here, you still got all these people underwater, probably more pre-market people underwater. And so usually these little bounces get slapped right back down. So there's no point on this run, even though it ran from like 650 to 850, there's no point that I felt comfortable getting long. So I just sit there and watch it with a dumb look on my face, but I keep it on a chart, right? And it comes down and then it comes up and hits 840. This high was 865. The high of day was just below 9. So, you always hear me talk about stacked catalyst. You had that here if it started to curl up again. So, and this is a screenshot, so I can't scroll over, but I basically said in chat, hey, if this breaks the half, it's a little bit arbitrary, but half numbers and whole numbers can be really nice inflection point entries anyway on a stock like this where I think as this topped out below the highs and started to roll over, I think you had plenty of shorts in it. I think you had shorts averaging up here or adding to their position as it starts to roll over, thinking, hey, longs are stupid, thinking this is going to go through the highs, right? So, but then it holds up and it chops around. And I kept pointing out to you in chat, watch how this is burning longs and shorts. If you could see this on a 1 minute basis, it would pop, it would drop, it would pop, it would drop. But my thinking was if we do get through the half, you've got two catalysts or dominoes just above. A break of this 865 lower high that it put in. And if it gets above that, I just couldn't even imagine this thing stopping before it rips through the high of day, right? So I love it over 865. I've got a lower high at 840. I've got the half here that could be an inflection point. But my thinking is completely, if this breaks the half, it's going through the high of day, right? So anyway, that was my idea. It was basically over this little cup and handle play, right? So when I saw it getting up to 840, which was this lower high, right? I call this the high. I call this a lower high. I call this a lower high. And there was a big seller on the tape at 840. When this started to curl back up, I saw volume come in at 840. I sent my order. And for those of you that know how I trade, I use the matrix, which is also called a ladder on other platforms. On TradeStation, that's who I trade with. It's called the matrix. I was just hovering over above 840. I didn't give a lot of thought. So you can see this was my limit, 848. Probably should have been hovering over 852 or something, but I didn't care. I mean, I knew I was hovering over, and so a limit order that I use, I knew I was hovering over that 840 area, right? And I always want to use a limit in case you get some crazy move, and I don't want some nasty slippage, terrible entry, right? So anyway, it's not an exact science for me. I said I liked it through the half. A lot of people might say, why wasn't your limit over 850? Once I saw that volume coming at 840, I just sent the order. I happened to be hovering over a limit of 848, right? If you don't know what I mean by hovering over, look at a trading ladder or the matrix on TradeStation. You can probably find videos on YouTube. That's how I place all my orders. I absolutely love that matrix on TradeStation. It is how I place every trade. Anyway, so limit at 848. I got filled at 844, and that's because I was laser focused on that 840 break. When I saw the volume coming in, I just sent the order, right? Could have easily gotten filled at 848, or it could have even jumped me. That's how quickly it happened. And then I would have missed the trade. Anyway, long story short, got a quick dollar move in about 6 minutes. And it was actually my best trade of the day, even though I only took 1,500 shares. But I wanted to explain the reason for the entry. And even though you could say, well, why didn't you take it down here on this 7 break? There were no catalysts above. This could have just as easily broke 7, rolled over. I like my entries to be at exact moments when dominoes should fall. Catalysts, stacked catalysts above, right? So the exact moment. This was the area right here where I felt like shorts are in trouble and we're probably going to rip through the high of day, right? So I got long. And then the beauty of it, when you learn to time your entries, the beauty of it is you're never underwater when you do it right, and all you have to worry about is scaling out. And my best sell, by the way, I always sell in parts. My best sell was actually slightly over $1 above my entry. So, it was a really nice trade. And let me show you the live shot now. Not live, but look here. Let's go back to the daily. Look how this ended. Look how this ended. Couldn't be uglier. Shorts made a killing on this thing. And it's also, a lot of people make the mistake and say, well, Mike, you suck. You should have just shorted this. First of all, I probably couldn't have shorted it. I very rarely get shares. But I always just look for long trades. And if I find a setup, I take it. And then I'll scroll over here. You can see right above this little flag, right in there is where I got filled. And look how quickly it pays off. In 10 minutes, it was back to my entry. Maybe 15 minutes, 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. So, again, a lot of people might make the mistake of saying, well, didn't your trade fail? You got long right there, and look what it did. Well, as a day trader, Wayne likes to say, we rent them. And I love that, right? We rent them. I'm getting long here. I get everything I'm looking for. I'm looking for 1, 2 dominoes to fall. And those of you that are taking the course or in our chat room, you already know the answer to this, but as it's breaking and ripping higher, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything but selling in parts, right? I've already got my partials quantity filled out, and I'm just selling using that TradeStation matrix, putting offers up above, watching the stock run into it, and as it rolls over, I'm back out the rest, right? So even though this looks like an ugly long, it was a beautiful long. It was a great trade. And the important thing about it, if this is where most new traders they're not taught. You need to learn to nail the entry. Look for those setups that should go right away. Then the only problem you have is scaling out. All right, I didn't mean to spend 7 minutes on this. Let me go into my watch list for Monday. ARQL, big pop here, quiet inside day. Maybe we get a third day play on that one. AQB had a massive move late Friday. It ended up in after hours closing at 409. I don't know if there was bad news or if that was just profit taking from those who got in early, but definitely want to watch this one on Monday. GLBS, I kind of feel like somebody said, hey, all the low floaters are going lately. Let's try to run the shippers, because I don't think there was any news in it. And that started with ESEA the day before. ESEA had this big move from 60 cents to 97. And so I think people just started looking for other shippers. I could be wrong. Maybe GLBS had news. That is very big volume for this stock. This stock can move like crazy when it moves, so it goes on watch. But just be careful of the scenario I've just painted. And the same thing with PXS, another one of the low-priced shippers. And you can see they were in favor back here. Maybe they catch fire again, so it goes on watch. ALQA, really nice breakout there. If you go to 5-minute candles, you can see the big move was right at the end of the session. We'll see if that gives any kind of follow-up setup. Remember, my intraday setups are going to be setups that should work right away. So I don't have to wonder how I'm going to trade them. I already know how I'm going to trade them and what setups I'm going to look for when Monday gets here, right? PULM, I think, was just another group of traders saying, hey, this one's a low float. You can see the reverse split back here. So it's got probably a pretty low float because of this reverse split. And that might be the only reason this ran. Don't care if I get a proper setup, I'll trade it. I went from 133 to 233 before giving away probably half its gains, but it goes on watch. It doesn't cost me anything to have these things on a chart. JMU, after this big pop, is just kind of still in a flag pattern. I don't love it because I think that was predicated on a Chinese deal, a tariff deal with China. But if that does come, JMU is going to be my go-to. Like if there's intraday news on Monday or any day next week, where it looks like they've got a deal in place, JMU is going to be my go-to, so I do want to keep that on a chart. AWSM had the gap up 4 sessions ago, just keeps putting in lower highs, kind of testing the 8-day from above. Really small volume on Friday, so I still think this has potential to turn back up. GTXI, I don't love this because had a nice pop on Thursday, and then on Friday it's basically round tripped, but not. Let me zoom in a little bit, but not if you look at where it started from for the gap. So, and if you noticed on Friday, I'll pan out a little bit here. On Friday, put in its early high 10 minutes in and just grinded the rest of the day. So what I look for on a recent high flyer like a GTXI is kind of a tight pattern like this, and then an afternoon break above the early highs. that's usually a pretty good scenario for a late day pop. So that's what I'll be looking for in GTXI. I don't really love the daily there. AQMS had a really nice, I don't know, week-long run here on pretty good volume for the stock, and now we've got a couple days lower. I'd like it closer to the 20 EMA, but we'll see. May be ready to turn back up tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Monday. I'm making this on Saturday. I don't usually make these on Saturday. TGTX, this had the big breakout. I'll scroll over. You can kind of see, hey, that's a really nice breakout, right? Then another day, and now it's come back in on lower volume. It's starting to curl back up, so I want to watch that one. ATIS, penny stock, had this huge intraday move from 27 cents to almost 70 cents. Really round trip, but then a nice little pop again on Friday, although it gave some of it back. Still, this one seems to be kind of in play. If I get a low-risk setup, I'm going to give that one a try. And then lastly, JP, big pop here. 5 sessions ago? From 423 to 595. Came back in on lower volume, retesting the 20-day, and a little bit better volume on Friday and curling back up. Another good chart setup to watch. Believe me, that's plenty to watch, and I've babbled long enough. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see everybody on Monday.